When Alex Pereira triumphed over Israel Adesanya for the UFC middleweight championship last November, it was a stunning upset and a predictable outcome all at once. Pereira had already defeated Adesanya twice in kickboxing matches, so many fans considered him to be Adesanya's Achilles heel. Despite the fact that Adesanya had more UFC wins than Pereira had professional fights, it was tough not to favor Adesanya to avenge his previous losses, particularly because the fight seemed to have been arranged solely for that purpose. For the majority of the match, Adesanya appeared to be in control, outstriking Pereira and even staggering him in the first round. Despite the fact that the champion seemed to be on his way to a decision victory, a checked leg kick in the fifth round provided the opening that Pereira needed to turn the fight around. He delivered a heavy left hook and followed up with a barrage of strikes, ultimately stopping Adesanya in an incredible comeback. The finish was reminiscent of their second kickboxing bout, which was dominated by Adesanya but finished by Pereira. As a result, it's unclear who will emerge victorious in their upcoming rematch. While Adesanya is the more versatile and well-rounded fighter, landing more strikes and having an advantage in grappling, Pereira's punching power is a game-changer that can end a fight with just one clean blow. Adesanya's only path to victory is to avoid Pereira's devastating punches, but doing so over 5 rounds is a daunting challenge. Furthermore, Pereira has a psychological advantage over Adesanya, making it difficult to envision Adesanya reclaiming his title. In the last fight, Adesanya found a path to victory via takedowns or wrestling in the second and third rounds. Adesanya dragged Pereira to the canvas, and Pereira had literally no clue how to stand up. As Izzy got his arms wrapped around him and pressured him, Pereira tried to manhandle himself to his feet, pushing with all his might and tiring himself in the process. Adesanya needs to remember those exchanges for the rematch. He can't stand with Pereira in a kickboxing match. He's lost 3 times now, so he needs to get on the mat and make it an ugly fight. Clinches, trips, and ground and pound should all be part of Izzy's weapon wheel this time around. It seemed, for a few moments during the UFC 281 fight, that Adesanya felt too comfortable. He'd cleaned out the middleweight division, and few fighters posed much of a threat. Naturally, when Adesanya landed combos on Pereira, especially in the first round, he didn't fly in for the kill. Part of that is due to Pereira's terrifying punching power, but Adesanya has enough length and striking savvy to knock the Brazilian out cold. Pereira employs a conventional kickboxing style, maintaining an upright stance with a high guard and tucked elbows. On the other hand, Adesanya has made a name for himself with his spinning strikes, question mark kicks, and devastating body shots. If Adesanya intends to reclaim his UFC championship from Pereira, he must display more ingenuity and take greater risks. Ultimately, it is impossible to predict with complete certainty who will emerge victorious in the fight between Pereira and Adesanya. Each fighter has their own strengths and strategies that they will try to utilize to claim the win. Pereira, for instance, will aim to remain upright and utilize his brutal striking power to potentially knock Adesanya out. On the other hand, Adesanya may attempt to take the fight to the ground, or focus on incorporating a greater variety of strikes aimed at Pereira's body. To increase his chances of success, Adesanya will also need to inject more creativity into his fighting style and take more risks during their exchanges on the feet. Ultimately, it will be a battle of wills and skills, with both fighters fighting tooth and nail to come out on top. If I were to make a prediction, I'd favor Adesanya in this fight. From what I've observed, Adesanya seems to have learned from his previous match with Pereira and will be more cautious in his approach. He's a strategic fighter and knows how to pick his moments to attack. If the opportunity arises, he won't hesitate to take advantage of it, especially if it's a repeat of the first fight where he had Pereira on the ground. One of the paths to victory for Adesanya could be his superior wrestling skills compared to Pereira's, despite not being a wrestler himself. I believe Adesanya will utilize his grappling skills more this time around. He's a well-rounded fighter and knows how to transition seamlessly from striking to grappling. If he can combine his grappling and striking abilities effectively, he could secure a victory on points. Overall, Adesanya is a smart fighter who adapts well to his opponents, and I have no doubt he's come up with a solid game plan for this fight. With his skills and experience, I believe he has the upper hand and is the one to watch in this upcoming bout.